Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for sticking around with us all day and joining our very last panel of the day before we close out. We hope you enjoyed the lunchtime panel if you were able to watch that while you had your lunch. And actually, this session is a perfect follow-up to our lunchtime panel because we have with us today Fairshea Perkins, who is a wife, a mom, an early childhood advocate. She's also, like, as recently as yesterday, been crowned as a 40 under 40 recipient in the Baton Rouge area. So you really have a rock star of a presenter here. She currently serves as the Pointe Coupee Early Childhood Coalition Executive Director. And she works with a dedicated team there of volunteers and advocates to expand access to quality for some of Louisiana's most disadvantaged communities. Through her work, the coalition has expanded the ECE Fund Seats program in Pointe Coupee Parish, raised class scores in childcare, and expanded their work with local businesses through the school readiness tax credits. She holds current certifications as an infant, toddler, and pre-K through third grade class observer, and holds a bachelor degree from Chilean University, a master's degree from Texas A&M University, and has 11 years of nonprofit and project management experience. Fairshea, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and I will not hold you up any longer.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Maddie. I really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. I hope that everyone can see my screen. And just thank you all so much for your participation, for your interest in supporting our youngest learners in Louisiana. Like Libby said in that last panel, this is truly a two-generation workforce solution. And I hope that some of what we talk about today gives you ways to both engage your current workforce, your business community, as well as support next generation's workforce, Louisiana's youngest learners. So for some quick overview, we will go through the objectives for today because I haven't been out of the classroom long enough to stop doing that. I'll give you a little bit about me. We'll talk about the school readiness tax credit. We'll get a little nitty gritty there. It's going to be fun. And then we'll also talk about Pointe Coupee. Sometimes in Louisiana, we can feel like there's a bit of a divide between urban areas and rural areas. And it's always so helpful to realize that our children deserve our best support and they also deserve to bloom where they're planted. So I'm going to offer some strategies that might be a little bit more tailored for a rural audience, but that's not to say this couldn't work in an urban area with a little bit of tweaking. And then we'll just talk through how school readiness tax credits have helped us expand access to quality care. Again, our objectives: participants will learn about rural strategies to increase access to quality for infants and toddlers by using innovative funding models, including school readiness tax credits. The pre-K wheelhouse is a wonderful wheelhouse, and it is, not my ministry today. But for infants and toddlers, that's really been our focus in the Pointe Coupee Early Childhood Coalition. And again, these are rural strategies. We're the largest sugarcane producer in Louisiana. So these are strategies that are really bespoke to a rural, high poverty population. So like Maddie said, I have the pleasure of serving as Pointe Coupee Early Childhood Coalition's Executive Director, which is your Region 11 Child Care Resource and Referral Agency. So some of our child care resource and referral agencies serve, broader territories, and then some of them are like us. There's 3 that are just one parish, and that's what works really well for our community. My phone number is 225-618-6688. Call me if you have a question. I love to talk on the phone. I'm not as great responding to texts or emails, but I love a phone chat. And then our office is at 230 Roberts Drive in New Roads. We're open Monday through Friday, and we're behind the emergency room. If somebody, tries to give you an IV, you've gone the wrong way. But yeah, that's just a little bit about us and where we are situated in Louisiana. And at this point, Victoria, would it be possible to launch the poll to start us off for our introduction to school readiness tax credits? I'd like everyone to go ahead and answer these 2 questions. It's 1:09 and we're going to take about a minute at 1:10 to come back. The first question is, where did you hear about school readiness tax credits? Just type in wherever, whether you heard it from a friend, a colleague, your CPA, on the television. And then also, how familiar are you with school readiness tax credits? low level of familiarity, medium level of familiarity. You're an expert. You really got this. So go ahead. We're going to take about 20 more seconds to finish answering these. We have about half of our participants have already answered. So if you haven't yet answered, now is the time to pop those answers into the chat. We're going to take about 10 more seconds to finish answering these. I see we're kind of slowing down with responses. All right. Perfect. Okay, we're taking about 5 more seconds. Excellent. We have 2/3 of our participants already putting things in. Amazing. Great. Victoria, if you can end the poll, and then is there a way that we can share the answers with the whole group? All right. So I'm seeing overall that in terms of people's familiarity with the school readiness tax credits, we're kind of split. Most people have like a medium level of familiarity, and then some people kind of have a low level of familiarity, which is so perfect because you are going to learn a ton from this. And I really hope that this helps you get additional familiarity. Here's the thing. If something, if you still don't feel like you've got it quite yet, do not fret. I'll share our website with you. It's pcearlystart.org/SRTC, and that will cover all of the things that we talk about in this presentation. Maddie, Victoria, I can't see the answers to this poll, but if you want to go ahead and pop some of those in the chat in terms of where people heard about it, that would be great. I'll go ahead and move on through my next couple of slides, and then I'll take a look back in the chat if that works for everybody. So let's start off with what are school readiness tax credits. This is a little tricky because there's a tax deduction and then there's a tax credit. So a tax deduction would be something like your healthcare plan is a tax deduction. You aren't taxed on that as income. It gets taken away and that portion of your income isn't taxed, but the rest of your income is taxed. Tax credits are different. Tax credits give you a credit for paying taxes in some form or fashion. Think of it like a store credit. If you return something to Walmart, they ask, do you want it refunded to your original method of payment, or do you want a store credit? That store credit is something you can use again. So with a school readiness tax credit, you are able to then either credit that money towards your taxes, or if you don't owe any of those taxes, get refunded through the state. So school readiness tax credits, actually, they're not a recent thing. They've been around. They were passed in 2007 as part of Act 394, and it became effective for income tax years after 2008 or franchise tax years after 2009. So we have a lot of experience with these. We see that, they've been in effect for almost 15 years. They've been profiled in publications across America as a really innovative way to not only draw down federal funding through the Match for Child Care Development Block Grant, but also to incentivize local interest and engagement in the early care and education space. So the school readiness tax credit that I'm going to be talking about specifically here is the school readiness tax credit for donations to resource and referral agencies. And this is a refundable tax credit for donations made to a child care resource and referral agency, which you'll hear of as a CCR&R. So the state designates a CCR&R so that every single parish in Louisiana has a resource and referral agencies. So this is not just a director who gets the support, but the teachers, the assistant teachers, the parents. I've even had grandparents call my office and get support and resources. So this is a wonderful hub of resources, information, and networking for families who are supporting very young children. These are private agencies that contract with the Department of Education to provide information and services to parents and child care providers. And donations to these child care resource and referral agencies are eligible for this refundable credit equal to the amount donated as long as it doesn't exceed $5,000 per tax year. The refundable credit, and this is where it starts to get interesting, can be taken against individual income tax. Let's say you're a small business. Maybe you're Maddie's Madeleines, a small bespoke pastry business, and you just, bake a few Madeleines out of your household and you run your business through an individual income tax. Then as a business, you're able to contribute and get that tax credit. Let's say you're a corporation. Let's say you're a chemical company or a electricity plant. You're able to take this tax credit through the corporation income tax. Or even if you're operating a franchise like an Edward Jones business or many of the different franchises that are around, you can also take advantage of this tax credit. Again, it's very flexible that way. And what's so powerful about the school readiness tax credit is that it transforms what people thought of as a tax liability into a targeted community investment. Again, remembering what Libby was telling us about that 2-generation workforce solution, you're turning your taxes, which you got to pay anyway, into a way that you can choose to invest within your community. Oftentimes our small businesses feel cash strapped. They feel like they're always running this, that, or the other, trying to grow, handling issues, not really able to rest on their laurels, so to speak, the way a larger competitor might. And this turns their tax liabilities into the opportunity for a small business owner to become a major donor, to become a true philanthropist. Because with the school readiness tax credit, for every dollar up to $5,000, your business gets a dollar for dollar refundable credit on its Louisiana state taxes. Let's say Victoria's consulting business owes $5,000 in state taxes. Her consulting business could make a $5,000 donation to Agenda for Children, her local child care resource and referral agency. Her tax liability is now zero. Let's say that a bakery down the street owes $3,000 and makes a $4,000 donation. Not just their tax liability is zero, the state is now sending that bakery a check for the $1,000 differences. So if you don't owe at all, you can make that donation December 30th, and then turn around and file your taxes as soon as tax filings open up in January, February, and get your refund back. So it really allows people who care deeply about the community, because broadly speaking, it's our small businesses that take advantage of this. They care deeply about the community and they're able to invest deeply in what matters to them. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these responses in the chat for how people have learned about school readiness tax credits. We're seeing people work as early childhood teachers and directors. Ooh, today's presentation, that is exciting. I'm glad to be able to share that with you. Things like the Early Childhood Network, colleagues through the Department of Education, conferences, this symposium, fantastic. Let me show you something. All these places where you've heard about it, the most important place to hear about it if you're a business owner is actually your accountant. Interesting. But it's true. This might sound too good to be true for several people, but when your accountant believes in this, it really changes the ballgame. So here's a little introduction to Pointe Coupee, the sugarcane capital of Louisiana. We're a rural, tight-knit community with a total population of a little under 21,000 people, including 1,106 children under the age of 5, with about 600 of those kids meeting the definition of economically disadvantaged. And this is the most recent eligibility data we received from LDOE. We see that 27% of our children live in poverty, and approximately 55% of our families live below the ALICE threshold. And ALICE stands for asset limited, income constrained, employed. Think of it as essentially people who we might have called in the past the working poor. These are people who are one missed car payment away, some from very severe financial distress. And affording childcare is very hard. Affording childcare is especially hard because childcare costs in our region represent about 33% of median income. We have some childcare options. We have 4 public schools that offer 3K and 4K. We have 1 private school that offers NSCCD. We have 5 Type 3 childcare sites and 1 family childcare provider who accept public funding. And we ranked second in the state for infants and toddlers access to care. 27% of our at-risk infants and toddlers receive public funding, compared to approximately 11% statewide. And for our 3s and 4s, we offer universal pre-K with 100% coverage of our at-risk 3s and 4s. And so this can seem a little jarring to people. They say, what? A small agricultural community is able to do this much? How is that even possible? Well, it's possible because we don't try to do it alone. We are a coalition in the true sense of the words, because what we're here to do is to share information, to connect partners, and to really work with our community to provide the best environment for not just our kids, but their families. We want them to be happy. We want them to be healthy. We want them to be resilient. I want them to succeed in school, in work, in life. So we leverage a variety of funding streams, both private and public, state and federal, to really sustain our work. Everything from our current contracts with the state as Community Network Lead Agency and Child Care Resource and Referral Agency, to school readiness tax credits. We've received Capital Area United Way's Innovation Grant, as well as private donations from businesses and individuals. A neat thing about working in a very rural, hyper-local context is that it offers really unprecedented opportunities for collaboration, because instead of the economies of scale, you get more of the economies of small. It's much easier to coordinate amongst partners because you're not facing an overwhelming crush of applications or things to go through. You can have a real personal touch with people because of these economies of small, which then encourage investment and sustain partnerships. So a little bit more about early childhood's impact, and I hope that I'm preaching to the choir, but in case it hasn't been said yet, 90% of brain development occurs by the age of 4. Child care is going to play a critical role in building foundational skills as well as pro-social behavior. Everybody wants a child to grow up and be a success, but people don't realize that those skill sets begin early. Because kids who attend high quality early care and education programs are 25% more likely to graduate high school. They're 4 times more likely to complete a bachelor's degree, and they earn up to 25% more in wages as an adult. This feels particularly compelling in a rural area where there are lower rates of high school graduation, where there is that concern about rural brain drain and people, wanting to earn a good living, but not necessarily feeling like they can do it here. It's important to set our children up for a foundation of success because there really aren't opportunities for a do-over in childhood. Getting early childhood right in a rural area means getting several things right: economic development, family well-being, and unlocking generational prosperity. So when childcare is not available, working parents may have to miss work, resulting in an average of 14 days of missed work due to childcare issues per year. And absenteeism causes absent pay, overtime pay, hiring of temporary workers, productivity reductions. It's a really big issue, but it's especially a large issue in rural areas where you don't necessarily have a lot of extra workers who can help pick up the slack when someone's not there. Childcare becomes even more urgent in a rural area because there simply aren't backup workers or large staff to keep things running. It's essential in rural areas to have strong childcare networks that allow parents to participate in the local economy while keeping kids safe, healthy, happy, and most of all, learning. So what are some of the funding sources that we're leveraging in Pointe Coupee Parish? So for our preschool 3s and 4s, we obviously are able to use, the big hitters like Head Start, LA4, 8G, IDA Part B 619, NSCCD, and also local funding. Hats off to our local school system. They really truly committed that they wanted to offer universal pre-K. They want every child who can attend preschool to have a seat there. So I just have to really tip my hat to my wonderful colleagues at the Pointe Coupee Public School Board. They are doing a phenomenal job there in keeping that universal access so that we can cover 100% of our 3s and 4s. Now, infants and toddlers, how do we make that work? The Child Care Assistance Program, sure, but Child Care Assistance Program, if you've been to some of the earlier sessions, it can be difficult for families to access that. The wait lists are not short. The application process is not easy. So we had to leverage a lot of different funding sources to really ensure that we're serving our most at-risk children. The CCAP V2 program, which is currently being held at the community network level so that the community network determines eligibility and communicates with families, has been a godsend for serving rural families. We've also been able to take advantage of the early childhood education fund, the local and matching funds there, where we raise money locally and then we're able to get the state match and turn that into childcare seats. And then local funding. All of these aren't enough for the need, and so we are able to then pull in SRTC dollars to make up the difference so that we can fund the whole seat there. So let's talk a little bit about school readiness tax credits and the coalition. So the coalition covers one parish in Louisiana, and since 2016, when we began this work, we've collected over $1.6 million in school readiness tax credits, all of which we've been able to directly invest in early childhood education. So I did a little digging. I went on Louisiana Department of Revenue's website, and based off of their estimates, the entire state is projected to only raise 1.6 million in school readiness tax credits this year. Of that, the coalition is predicted to raise 20% of that. We're one of only 64 parishes, and we're really sparsely populated. So if all parishes had similar SRTC fund generation, early childhood education would see an investment of nearly $20 million a year. So why is this happening? Well, what I would point to is we have incredible local knowledge of the school readiness tax credit. The reason why I wanted to ask, first of all, how people had heard about SRTC is the thing is, most people haven't. We're able to raise record amounts of revenue because people hear about it in Pointe Coupee Parish. Yet when we surveyed, 74.6% of our businesses had not heard of the school readiness tax credit. So even we have substantial ways to go there. So I would say that, first of all, it's important, in order to raise school readiness tax credit revenue locally, you have got to educate people about this issue. I think we've had an easier time than most at this because our local CPAs are passionate about the school readiness tax credits. They truly believe that community investments uplift the entire community, and they have been tireless advocates. They talk to their clients about this. They help prepare their clients' tax forms. They're very familiar with all the documents required for this. And they even put our posters and our brochures up in their waiting rooms so that anybody who's getting their taxes prepared at those firms knows what the school readiness tax credit is. And even then, we still haven't reached everybody. Another thing that I would point out is that the tax credit is up to $5,000. But as of pulling these numbers last month, only 63% of our donors took the full $5,000 credit. They might donate only $100 or only $250. So there's also that avenue for expansion. That people really have significantly more runway to go because they're not yet taking full advantage of the tax credit. One thing that I've heard that I'm sure other CCRNRs have heard as well is that oftentimes it's small and local businesses that are choosing to invest their dollars in the school readiness tax credit, and small and local businesses often have cash flow issues. We have some donors that to handle this issue, what they do, they send us their quarterly estimated tax payments instead of mailing the check to the Louisiana Department of Revenue. It's a creative solution. I'll give them that. So there are some donors who do that. It's not all of them, but there are some who send us individual payments throughout the year so that they can eventually get to that full $5,000 tax credit. And I think that is a smart investment. I think that's a really smart way to do that. But broadly speaking, the whole state is dealing with this issue of people don't know what the tax credit is. Their accountants aren't familiar with how to claim it. And then when they do take the tax credit, they're unaware of how much they can take in the tax credit, or they have cash flow issues that are preventing them from taking advantage of the full tax credit. So school readiness tax credits are crucial because labor shortages, especially in rural areas, have crystallized the needs to engage working parents in the economy. And school readiness tax credit is unique in this regard because it supports businesses who want to support childcare. Businesses like to feel good about supporting their employees, supporting their local communities, as well as, quite frankly, keeping their tax dollars local. So it's really, truly a win-win-win situation with the school readiness tax credit. The other avenue of funding that I would like to go ahead and highlight here as we kind of move forward from school readiness tax credits is our other philanthropic partners who have stood alongside us to help raise money for the Early Childhood Education Fund. Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation of Louisiana recognized our board chair through the Angel Award and gave a $30,000 donation to the Pointe Coupee Early Childhood Coalition. And our board chair pledged this donation to the Early Childhood Education Fund for the match. The Union Pacific Foundation also donated for the match. When we have out of parish training attendees, we are required from our CCR and our contract to charge them, but we use this as earned income essentially. The other thing that I really want to emphasize here, even if you can't raise enough in the ECE fund to cover the cost of an entire seat, SRTC can make up the difference. So let me give an example here. The first donation we ever got for the ECE fund was $1,000, just $1,000. And we really wanted to submit it for the match, but we knew it wasn't enough for a whole seat. So we submitted it for the match, and then we were able to use school readiness tax credits to turn that $2,000 into a year-long tuition seat. And that's what we've been doing. As we've increased the amount of money that we're raising every single year, I believe this year it will be 10 times what we've raised last year. We have been able to say, okay, well, we didn't quite get to a full seat funding, but we're using school readiness tax credits to augment that, to round out the numbers. And then also just like to help our sites through things like unlimited coaching, additional group trainings, conscious discipline materials. We really want to make sure that our sites have access to not just expand the number of seats, but to heighten the quality of those seats. And our partners, I just cannot give enough credit to our teachers and directors who are truly the champions here, who are truly the ones who are taking the torch forward, because they have decided that it is so important to not just expand access, but to expand access to quality. So I just, hats off. Our teachers and directors in Pointe Coupee Parish are just unmatched, and I couldn't be prouder of them. So I'll go ahead and pause now, Maddie, for questions and things like that. That's my email. Feel free to reach out to me. But yeah, Maddie, if we can kind of hop into questions and see what people have.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Hershey, for really digging in with us. Really excited to see that for some of the participants here today was their first introduction into SRTCs. And so just so pleased that you're able to share more about that. We do have a question about donations. So for our CCRNRs who cover more than just one parish, are donors allowed to request that CCRNR allocate those donations to a specific parish, or does it have to go to their whole like region?
I love this question. This is a question that I got a lot when I was at the state. So, and it has kind of a nitpicky answer. So I'm so excited. I love to go into details. So a donor can request, however, a nonprofit is required to adhere to its bylaws for how donation allocations and donation designations are given. So if a bylaws for an organization say that donors can or can't designate funds, then the nonprofit has to apply by those specific bylaws. All that to say, it's going to be different for every single parish. It's going to be different with each child care resource and referral agency. And I just want to take a moment here to give flowers to the amazing child care resource and referral agencies here, because they are so creative at meeting the need. Like the Echo Fund that Agenda runs to support high quality childcare is truly one of a kind. They just do amazing work there. And so donors should definitely contact their CCR&R specifically, because here's the thing. If you really truly want to see a child flourish, I can guarantee you the right people to talk to are your local CCR&R. They are really excited to hear about your passion for supporting childcare, and they have lots of great ways to work with you while obviously abiding by their bylaws. So fantastic question. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, and to dig a little deeper, can you help the participants understand more about what CCR&Rs do to support early care and education in their region?
Yes, absolutely. So the easiest way to think about it is a CCR&R is there to support the big people who take care of the little people. So the big people are taking care of little people, and the CCR&R is taking care of the big people. So that is not just teachers, right? That's not just teacher coaching and teacher training or technical assistance, the way most people think of a CCR&R. It's also talking with directors, helping directors strategize around common business concerns, around handling staff turnover, even about creating bespoke training opportunities for the staff within a center. It's also about engaging families. And some people say, oh, is this just mommy and me groups? Not quite. Although I will admit the coalition definitely does have a mommy and me group that we host at our early learning resource center. But there are surprising amounts of grandparents. In our parish, it's 1 in 8 families is head by a grandparent raising grandchildren. And so it's supporting families of every shape, size, and color. Everything from parenting classes to resources on how to find quality childcare. At our site, we even have diapers because there's some things that WIC and SNAP do not cover, and diapers are not covered by those, and it can be a problem for some of our littlest learners to go to class with a diaper rash, and we want to support our families. So it's very broad, but the easiest way to remember it is the big people who take care of our little people, the CCR&R is there to support them in every aspect of caregiving. Great question.
Thank you, Verche. For donors who are really excited to donate for the first time to a CCR&R,
Um,
what you kind of hinted at this, but what are the explicit things that their money could be going to? And let's not say a CCR&R. Maybe they're donating like directly to a child care center. I think there's a lot of times a question about like, is my money going to a seat? Is it going to a salary? Where is my money going? And like, how can I feel confident in that?
Such a good question. And I would start with the best way to know where your money's going is to talk directly with the people who are utilizing it, who are investing it within our childcare sites. Because one thing that's so powerful about our CCR&Rs is how local they are and how much they know their communities. Pointe Coupee has very different needs than even one parish over in East Baton Rouge. And Volunteers of America is doing a tremendous job supporting some very different needs in a very urban area like East Baton Rouge than happening over in Pointe Coupee. So I think the first step is really having that conversation. And again, one of the big benefits of the school readiness tax credit is because it's 100% refundable. People who don't normally write 4-figure checks to philanthropy suddenly get to be major donors, suddenly get to truly move the needle. But I mean, just speaking for our own site in Pointe Coupee Parish, we really strongly believe in the power of professional development for teachers. We truly believe that teachers want to grow and want to do better. And so we offer unlimited coaching. Any teacher and director who wants to participate, any site, it doesn't matter if you are a 5-star site with your teachers getting 7s on the class every single observation, you can still participate in coaching. Obviously, that's not funded by the department. And so we use school readiness tax credits, and that $5,000 donation can actually be a month of that intensive coaching for a teacher. And that's really helpful because quality happens when we work at it. The example that I always love is if you went to the gym and worked out every single day for a year and then stopped working out for 5 years, how fit do you think you'd be? Quality is not something that we get to and then we're done. Quality is something we engage with every single day as part of our teaching praxis. And we use school readiness tax credits to ensure that we have sufficient coaches. We do need 3 instructional coaches for our 5 sites because we really do want to support quality. But another thing that I would mention that we have used school readiness tax credits for that I think is helpful is sometimes things come up in a classroom and, there might be, like Christy mentioned, a pipe bursts and you really do want to replace the dolls. You really do want to have materials for kids and things like that. And we are able to do those things through school readiness tax credits. But I would just say the most important thing that I found in terms of moving the needle on quality that school readiness tax credits can do is open up and create personalized professional development for every teacher, for every site, for everybody who wants to engage. To me, that's really the true power of school readiness tax credits, is to not just expand access, but access to quality. It's kind of a long answer. Did I answer your question?
You absolutely did, yes, because we can get as many littles in the door as we want to, but if they're not being educated by high quality educators who are getting that constant feedback and coaching, we're not really setting our kids up for full success like we could be. So that's great. Thank you for sharing all the things that SRTCs can be spent on. I do have a clarifying question though. Can any of the SRTCs be used to expand a center, so infrastructure investments, or to build
Oh,
a new one?
so this is a really good question, because one thing that I would like to point out here is school readiness tax credits. Primarily, the primary focus is on supporting type 3 childcare. And like we said, when we expand or build a new center, it is not enough to just create a center, but it has to be a place where children who are economically disadvantaged, where children who are in foster care, protective custody, can have access to that quality. So I would say, no, it can't expand just any center or build any new center. It would really need to be used to expand a center that is utilizing a CCAP and CCAP Beta 3, but really a center that's committed to serving at-risk children. In terms of building a new center, I would have to defer to maybe my colleagues at Agenda. I have not heard of that one. But that could be really cool. That could be really cool. But no, I have not heard of building a new center. Yeah. So tax credit. Okay. So follow-up question here in terms of what tax credits pay for. So this is super tricky. I'm sorry. We're getting all these fantastic detailed questions, which I absolutely love, but feel free to stop me, Maddie, if I'm not quite getting there. So the tax credit is ineligible for the ECE fund match to fund seats. The tax credit is not eligible for that. However, if a network has raised money for the fund, but that fund isn't, but the amount raised isn't sufficient to cover the number of seats that local area wishes to provide, school readiness tax credits can augment the existing state match and local funds raised, if that makes sense. I know that's a super nitpicky answer.
No, very okay. And there are 5 different credits within our school readiness tax credits. One of those 5 is donating to a childcare resource and referral agency. One of the other ones that employers can get a credit for is if they either purchase a childcare slot or seat for one of their employees. So, and Fairshea, you kind of mentioned this, if I have my own business and my employee really needs childcare, I can donate directly to a childcare center of my choice and get that as a tax credit back. And now my employee has at least a slot for a year. And that can be up to $50,000. However, you only get a certain percentage of that amount back based on the quality rating of the center. So if I have a high quality center that I really want my employee's child to go to, because let's say it's next to my business, I can get up to 20% of whatever I donate for that childcare slot back in the credit. The credit that goes, if a donation from a business goes direct to a childcare center rather than to a resource and referral center, another allowable expense of that is construction, renovation, or a major repair for a childcare center. So that is allowable, but it is only a certain percentage that you can get back based on the quality of the center. And as far as I understand it, actually, I'll ask the question to Fairshea. Fairshea, can the tax credits go to, well, tax credit can go to pay for tuition. And insofar as a childcare slot, if a business is donating directly to a childcare center on behalf of their employee. Yes. So to answer your question, Cindy, thank you. That's a great question. Is that another one of the tax credits is that an employer can pay for a childcare slot for their employee and get a percentage of that back, up to 20% depending on the quality of the center.
Maddie, you bring up another interesting point. I'm sorry to do a quick detour, but this is super important. So school readiness tax credits also for teachers have those 100% refundable tax credit for teachers that can be up to $4,000 per teacher. It is not an insignificant amount. And one thing that we've done at the coalition is we partnered with our local United Way to administer a program called VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. So we were able, with the support of United Way and the IRS, to host a free low income tax clinic. The IRS provided training, certified our volunteer tax preparers, supported us with software and materials, and we were able to conduct returns for families and for childcare teachers working in childcare, for families who had children attending licensed care that were also eligible for the family school readiness tax credit. And this year alone, we returned $145,000 to families in tax refunds. So that's a wonderful partnership that you can work with your local United Way to do to host the volunteer income tax assistance. And this was, I mean, this was not a big lift. We only did taxes on Tuesdays from like 9 to 2 with a lunch break. But it was so impactful for our community and so many people benefited from it. So there's a lot of ways to bring SRTC to your community. There's a lot of ways to support your teachers, your directors, your families. Because again, as a child care resource and referral agency, you're there to support the big people who help take care of the little people. So I just wanted to not finish my presentation without talking about that one because it is important.
Yes, very. And I appreciate the clarifying questions from all of our participants. Cindy Cindy Saspiva, who is a friend of ours, but so thank you for coming. Just to clarify with your question, so employer can either donate directly to a childcare center, like I just talked about, for those repairs and things like that, also a childcare slot. Their other option is to donate to a childcare resource and referral, to which is a dollar for dollar credit up to $5,000. And so, Fair Shea does a tremendous job in Pointe Coupee at making sure that local businesses are aware of this. And I'm sure would be, so I'm kind of speaking for you, Fair Shea, if you don't mind. I'm sure she would love to help you as a business owner, or if you are a CCR&R representative or a child care owner, she would be happy to point you in the right direction to make sure you're getting access to this really powerful tool on making sure that we maintain quality and increase quality and that our communities are well supported. So Fair Shea, cannot thank you enough for sharing all of your wisdom with us today. And you have your email right in front of us. So please give her a shout. She is always ready and willing to help.
Thank you so much, Maddie. And thank you so much to the Policy Institute for putting on such an impactful symposium. I know I took a lot of notes and learned a lot from all the different presenters. And I'm just so thankful for the invitation to share a little bit on what's on my heart for supporting our families and our youngest learners. So thank you for that.
Always happy to have you. For all of our participants, we do have a short 10-minute closeout to help you know about what next steps are coming and how you can use what you learned today to move forward. That is in another Zoom account that once I close out this presentation, you'll be able to go back to your Zoom lobby and get that last little 10 minutes in with our very own Dr. Weber. Thank you all again for hanging out with us this afternoon, and hope to see you soon in some way or another. Thank you all. Bye.